right.
Ah,
Super excited. All right. Welcome to 42. Two Souls, One Journey, a raw and unedited look into our lives as humans, based on the 21 grams experiment by Dr. Duncan MacDougall, who concluded that the human soul weighs 21 grams. On this videocast, we explore that no matter what our lives look like on paper, our souls journey similarly. For this month, I'm introducing you to the people of Winnipeg, the people that make me want to stay here forever. With the caveat that I need to get through a winter first, because I hear that is brutal and lasts months. In this episode, we're speaking to radio producer, queer prairie dweller, queer man with a tiny but very gallant dog. Part of our queer welcoming picnic, I'm deeming him as the witty, baby-faced, honest Winnipegger with the mischievous undertone. Mr. Andrew Friesen, hello, how are you?
oh, hello. I don't know if I'm like mischievous, but I'll take honest.
Well, I feel like there's an honesty, but also, like, I think the best way to describe you is like you've got this like very kind Canadian demeanor, but then like there's a twinkle in your eye that, and in some conversations you're just like, I'm gonna throw this out there.
A little sharp. Yeah. The
Yeah, I mean,
unexpected burns are the best kind of burns, really.
oh, they're the best. And like the undertone cuntiness, like
Oh, yeah.
makes my heart get all like
Mhm.
juicy is a good word for it. And you have it, and it's very like it's very subtle.
Thanks. Thank you.
Yeah, and very well appreciated.
Mhm.
So let's introduce you to the people. So all I know about Andrew so far is that Andrew was born in Brandon. He is a CBCer in Winnipeg, and you have a twin brother.
I
Correct?
have a twin sister, actually.
Oh, a twin
Yeah.
sister. Okay.
So yeah,
Um,
I was born in Brandon, which is a couple of hours down the road from Winnipeg. For anyone outside of the province who only knows Winnipeg, even though it's the second largest city, nobody knows Brandon. Yeah, 33. I've been in Winnipeg for about 10 years now. Um, and yeah, I've kind of fallen in love with the city. As you said, I have a tiny dog. I have a husband. I have friends who I see on video screens these days. Yeah, ask anything. I'm an open book.
well, let's start with so I have like the word Mormon in question next to you. So I don't know if we spoke about this or not, but you grew up in Winnipeg, in Brandon, in a Mormon community. Am I correct about that? Did I just make that up from the Real Housewives of something?
So, as people from Manitoba might recognize with my last name, so my father, and so like half of me is from Mennonite background.
Okay.
So, um, not quite Mormon, but basically Mennonites, Hutterites, Amish, all are classified as like Anabaptist groups. So broadly, that means that there's a bit of a like a pacifist worldview, so not believing in like armed conflict or draft. And then depending on the group, being a bit separate from the world. So they'd have communities that are potentially a little bit more isolated, a little bit more kind of culturally closed.
Okay.
So yeah, my dad comes from a very large Mennonite family. He's got 13 siblings from just south of Winnipeg. And yeah, with that many relatives, you've got like quite a variety of beliefs and opinions. But yeah, I find I don't actively practice the faith of
Right.
being Mennonite, but I do find it pretty fascinating. And I think it's probably shaped me in more ways than I care to admit.
Yeah, let's talk about it a little bit. So first of all, let me apologize about the Mormon thing. I think the Mormon thing came from me watching The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, and it's so Mormonized that I was like, oh, Mormon. So my apologies on that.
Oh, fair enough.
Um, but so I mean, how deep do your roots go in in Brandon then? Like how many generations of Mennonites have your dad's generation lived here?
So it's basically like in Brandon specifically, like my parents moved there when I was, I think, 3 months old. So, I mean, technically I'm a first generation Mennonite, Brandonite, but yeah, my dad's family would have come over during the 1800s. Um, Mennonites settled south of Winnipeg on a couple of parcels of land. And they did this unique thing where they like kind of like picked up their communities. In my dad's family's case, like on the in the Ukraine,
Okay.
and moved. Oftentimes they would like pick up like plan the city the exact same way in Manitoba. They would keep every single thing the same. Like it would have the exact same name. The houses would be laid out in the exact same way. Basically, yeah, wanted to be able to practice religious freedom, so they moved to Manitoba, which was basically wanting to have people farm. And I mean, unfortunately, I think displaced Mennonite people or indigenous people.
Right.
So they wanted basically white settlers. And so Mennonites were trying to escape some kind of poor situation. So they ended up here.
I had no idea that the Mennonites came from Ukraine for some reason. I don't know why I thought they were such a North American-based tribe. But it sounds like it's so interesting because I feel like there's a similarity where like my family went from like poor like went like they were taken by the British from like poor India to Kenya and literally replicated their living situation in Africa in Nairobi, and then we moved here. I mean, this Canada was already pretty settled, but still we all like came from one spot to another community where all our people were, so that we still felt some sort of togetherness. And the way things are built is like all your homes are here and then your mosque is here. Is that similar sense of
Yeah, to a certain extent. Like there's a lot of variety when it comes to like if you go to some Hutterite communities, like they're very closed and have traditional dress. Like most Mennonites are kind of secret here in, and not literally secret, but I like to joke that there's just like all these random Mennonite hipsters around Winnipeg. People who are potentially from that background who maybe have that last name. It's kind of like if you have like a gaydar and you're like reading somebody as gay, I can also like pick up. I'm like, you're Mennonite, aren't you?
Wait, okay.
Yeah, and it's very much a thing where it's like Mennonites, will like leave one place and go to another when that one place gets too worldly, and then okay, now Winnipeg's like it's too developed, we need to go somewhere else, and so we'll move to like Bolivia or something like that. So
okay, so I feel like I need to ask this, like, how do you spot a Mennoniter? Like, so we have this joke within like our Smiley community, which is my religious community, but like we can spot a Smiley, like we can be in a room full of brown people, and I'm like, that guy's a Smiley. Like we're the weird attunements.
Yeah.
What?
Basically, I would say a lot of it's like just subtle undertones of an accent. So it would be like just like a little extended vowels. If I spend enough time with my uncles, it'll come out. Yeah, it's like a way of speaking, kind of like a bit slower than usual. If they're like just suspiciously busy on Sunday mornings, then I'm like, okay, well, you're like probably going to church. Yeah, they like to bake bread, make coffee. Yeah.
It sounds like a really quaint lifestyle to have, actually. And it also sounds very hipster-y, to be honest with you.
A little bit. Yeah, basically homesteaders.
Yeah, my sister's boyfriend's a hipster, and I'm like, you just described him. And I don't think he's Mennonite. So
yeah. That's what he's doing on Sunday mornings. If he's going to, he might be sneaking off to a Mennonite church.
Well, he's he's Spanish and black, which doesn't mean he can't be Mennonite. I don't think for some reason I don't think he is. Yeah. Okay, good. Yeah. So what brings Andrew to like, so I feel like you're a very cosmopolitan person. There's something very like both you and Tyler have this very cosmopolitan feel to them. What brings you and keeps you in Winnipeg?
So I came to Winnipeg for a job. So I studied journalism, and what I wanted to do is kind of what I am doing right now. So I grew up listening to CBC radio. Like there's videos of me on my first birthday, like stuffing cake in my mouth, and like my parents on the back, like in the background, have CBC radio playing. Like if there's like a photo of me as a kid, like chances are good that like CBC radio was playing in the background when that photo was taken. So I studied journalism.
No, there's a freezing situation. From my end, Andrew's frozen.
Journalism in Vancouver. I moved from Brant. Really wanted to work for a specific. Oh, my internet connection is unstable, it says. So
you froze for a second. So you froze at, yeah.
So I moved from Vancouver to Winnipeg to take a job with a show called DNTO, which is my favorite CBC show at the time. And yeah, I kind of came here not knowing that much about it. When you're not from Winnipeg, but you're from Manitoba, you kind of have a certain resentment about the city where it's like,
Right.
it's all the money, all the people are from here. Basically, we would like drive in to go to the mall, and that's about it. So I didn't actually really have a sense of like the queer community here, like the art scene, kind of who was around. And so I came to work for CBC and they kept me. Basically, I guess I did a good enough job that they wanted to keep me around. And so I've been here ever since doing various jobs with the CBC and got married to a guy that I met like within a couple of weeks of coming to Winnipeg. It was a very like smooth transition. I feel like I belonged here.
I mean, I feel like you fit like as as a welcoming committee to Winnipeg, like you were, it was such a seamless. Like we got here, you were one of the first few people we met. You exemplify everything I say that I love and like about Winnipeg, like the
Mhm.
kindness, the goodness of people. Um, and I think like like Toronto. There was something about Toronto being like, oh, we're the center of the city, we're the center of the world, and like anything else outside of Canada, and anything else outside that, not even outside of the province, anything outside of our downtown Toronto, everyone's a
Mhm.
hick or like uncouth. Like there's always this joke about like we never go north of Blur,
Mm.
and like it's obnoxious.
Yeah.
Uh, but like I feel like Winnipeg doesn't have any of that at all, and everyone's super kind and welcoming, especially in the queer community. I think that's such a, you know, that definitely for me feels like people were like, oh, two queer boys are coming to Toronto, coming from Toronto to Winnipeg. Let's rally, come say hello to them, and then like regularly checking up on us to make sure we're okay. If we need anything, like I don't know any of my neighbors in Toronto yet. 100%. I've had at least 6 offers here to be like, you guys need groceries? Can we take you somewhere?
Yeah.
It's such a like. You were in Vancouver before you came here?
Yeah.
Did you find Vancouver?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a bit of a stereotype of Vancouver, but I personally think it's true where it's a bit, I mean, I was like maybe a bit depressed at the time. I came from a place where you get like vitamin D like 23 and a half hours a day.
Right.
So I like as silly as it is, like I felt really miserable in Vancouver. It was also really expensive. So coming to Winnipeg was a bit like coming home for me, partially because I had like sunlight, but I think also um, as a city, especially when I came here like 9 or 10 years ago, there was a real um, movement of artists. I think especially now, like you moved to Winnipeg because you can work from anywhere.
Right.
And I think you probably realize that like rent is a lot cheaper in Winnipeg than it is in Toronto and the place that you can afford. So people here, I think, can really they can try things and they can fail. Whereas like you toss all your money into like opening a boutique or an art gallery in Vancouver, Toronto, and you're digging yourself out of that for 15 or 20 years. And I know I say that as like a white guy with a federally funded job. And so I don't want to say like everything is great here. I think we should have a living wage. I think that there's a lot we can do to make it easy for everyone to live in a space. But I do find Winnipeg has a certain um, enthusiasm to it just because it is cheaper to live here. And also, it's a city that I feel like you in Vancouver, everything felt like it was glass. Everything, like all the grass was like constantly green. It was very manicured in a lot of the places that I was going or hanging out or that there was events happening. And I didn't really get a sense of like the history in the city. Whereas I feel like there's very few places in Winnipeg where you're not confronted, even in some ways, with the history of colonialism in this city, with the different groups that live here. The neighborhoods I feel like bleed into one another. And so coming here and discovering that was pretty exciting for me.
I feel like you nailed it. There's stuff like one. I think like you're right. You feel in Toronto or Vancouver, it's really hard to dig yourself out there. Like entrepreneurship is such a someone who's done that. I get it. Like
Yeah.
super expensive to get there, super hard to dig in. Two, there's a Like the artist community here, the community in general here is very encouraging and very like, hey, like, how can we support you? What do you need? I remember someone saying that because it's a smaller community, if you are somebody who paints and sings and dances, you'll have all your friends come to those things because there's X amount of venues, there's X amount of things that are happening, and everybody wants to support. Everybody here is gunning for your success,
Yeah.
which is such a different mentality than Toronto or Vancouver.
Yeah. I
Or
find it's also like a really good place if you're like slightly lazy, like I am, for that reason, because like anytime I go to Toronto for work, which I do, like, I mean, before the pandemic was relatively often, like just even connecting with the friends that I had there was just like a scheduling nightmare. And it's
yeah,
like, okay, where, when, how long. And in Winnipeg, like a weird benefit to it being like a secondary or tertiary kind of Canadian city is that yeah, there's only so many places you can go. Like I can be lazy and not plan to meet up with someone because I know that they're going to be at a dance party at the Goodwill Social Club, or I know that I'm going to see them at Parlor Coffee or walking in this specific, or I'll like, I don't really need to put that much effort into like seeing people and feeling social because I'm like, I know you're going to be there anyways, because there's only so many places you can go. So it's,
so
yeah.
right. I mean, missing dance parties, I think, is a big thing. Like, I think the one thing I adore about you and your husband is that when you get like pre shutdown, we were over and it was like we were dancing and enjoying music, and I was like, oh my god, gays who dance. Where's the club? Like, I am itching for that, and I know you are doing a post through CBC now or never,
Yep,
but now or never about writing a love letter to the dance party. So unfortunately, this is not going to air on time since your deadline's tomorrow.
that's fair.
But hopefully, people will see this and then Google it and see the end results of this. So tell us a little bit about now the love letter to your favorite gay bar.
I mean, gay bar, queer space. I'm
Uh,
wanting to let people be, I think, a little bit flexible with basically wherever like a community gathers. And I think there is a long history of those places for queer people often being bars or clubs or dark spaces later at night.
it's dark.
And like I honestly I've had like I don't call them nightmares, but I've had multiple dreams during the pandemic of like going out and dancing. Um, because it's just for me like a incredibly like affirmative space. Like growing up, the only like bars in town where you could go dance were like country bars. There was like Houston's Country Roadhouse and the Great Western Roadhouse. And so, I mean, I like enjoyed the process of like going out and like getting tipsy, but I'd never really like connected with it and like I need to do this regularly. I'm not getting anything from this, but maybe a hangover. Um, but like being able to, and it was a big part of moving to Winnipeg for me. Like I moved just a couple months before Pride in the city, and being able to like go out and not worry about like how limp your wrists are or like how sweaty you might be, or like being able to wear like cowboy boots and a harness and a like Shania Twain t-shirt. I know, I just found, which I like, I'm totally planning my like first dance party outfit right now. It's just like such a community gathering space of like such acceptance of not only like the person you are, but just like how you physically express yourself that I think is hard to recreate. You can recreate so much over like Zoom calls and other
Right.
hangouts, but just like a crush of people who like you really love is not easy to come by these days.
No,
And
and
not safe. Don't do it.
people don't do it. Not recommended by Andrew from CBC. Just don't do it.
Yeah.
Right.
I do
Uh,
not endorse this as an employee of the CBC, just so you know. But I wanted to, yeah, I thought that I'm obviously not the only one. So to answer your question, like I really wanted people um, who would be communicating very much to like a middle-aged audience, just based on the age of CBC radio.
right.
I kind of wanted to create a platform for queer people like me to just kind of say like, hey, this is something that might seem a little silly or flighty or not very serious. And it feels like a weird thing to like have multiple dreams about missing and like the one thing I want to do
Oh,
after the pandemic. But I really wanted to kind of get that across for the like straight white audience of the CBC, but also to allow some queer people to really carve out that space for them just to like light a candle basically for like the club that they miss.
it's so interesting. Like, I feel like when I came out, so like me and my best friend came out like weeks with like we're born weeks apart from each other. We came out around the same time, so we always had like I always had my friend Oren and I were always like we're like great, we're 21, we're out of the gay bar, and like for the like first 10 years of our lives, we're always at Buddies at Bad Time, where we met all our friends that like we both grew up in Scarborough, North York of Toronto.
Mhm.
So we were like a black guy and a brown guy in a predominantly white neighbor or Persian neighborhood with all our friends being very heterosexual. And then we got to be at this club and
Mhm.
like we used to go every weekend. We're like Friday, Saturday, to the point the bouncer was like, great, those two boys let them in. Like they knew us by name. And
Yeah.
but it was a space. It was a space for us to meet with our people. Like that's where we made our friends. That's where we first made out with boys. That's where we secondly met out with boys. Like the first, like some of like really our first great core experiences happened there, and that's where we met our first clique of other gay boys our age.
Mhm.
And to go back and revisit that, it was such a. I feel like no matter what age I am, every time I go to a gay bar, I get that sense of like, oh yeah, these are my people. I'm gonna cut the rug. I'm gonna kill it to a Destiny's Child song.
Yeah.
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 I love that. I love that it's an idea that you came up with to put out there. So is this going to be? I mean, I don't know if you can even share this. Is this like the hosts of Now or Never will interview people about this, or how do you
Bas-
see this creative outcome?
Yeah, so I
Specifics.
mean, this is like the meat and potatoes of being a radio producer. So basically, I'm just kind of collecting phone calls from people. So I put it out on my own channels. I've posted in a few places, like bars in Winnipeg, bars in Toronto that have closed sadly during the pandemic,
Right.
and basically just like a tapestry of different voices. Um, I mean, I could have the hosts, like I get to make that choice as a radio producer.
Ooh.
Like, do I want to have a host ask these questions and I could write questions for them? But I also have the ability to kind of do that work myself and put it together through the magic of editing. Um, and so that's the track that I took, partially just because I think I want their voices to like stand on their own, and I want it to be like a bit of a celebration. And um, I think that yeah, it's not that complicated a concept. I think when there's something that rings really true, like people can speak about it and share their emotions. So even if you're a listener who's like never been to a gay dance party or queer dance party, hopefully they'll be able to take away like the emotional truth from
I think one, I love the idea. I just read about it today as I was Googling you. And I think it's gonna be in the year of grieving and saying goodbye to things. Like for me, Toronto Church Street is heading down to looking like New York now, where there are gonna be separate bars in different places. The village is gone.
that. Yeah.
And I don't see a village existing here. So, for those times in our lives when our queer people needed a space, those bars were the spaces to go to and connect with.
Yeah.
I love the idea that you are capturing it in time as we're grieving so many other things. It's nice as queer people to grieve these things because we do grieve them, and not a lot of record of these things kept. So this is, I don't know, I feel like in 10 years we'll be like, what a great time capsule and what a great idea.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and I think like for me, one thing that I'm really fascinated by is that like as sad as it is for like queer bars to close, like I'm a big fan of also like pop-up dance parties. Like I really love when spaces that are not explicitly like a queer space are transformed into a queer space. So that could be like for a dance party. It could be for like cruising, for example, like a public bathroom.
Right.
Like all of a sudden becomes like a queer space where like people can like connect with each other. So like I think anytime that there are like more than one or even just like one queer person like in a space, I really appreciate um yeah, like the transformation of a space that isn't like explicitly queer into a queer space. So I guess in a weird way, I'm like also transforming hopefully this like 3 minute, 4 minute piece of CBC radio slightly into like a space that's gay, but we'll see.
No, you're dying it. It's in the works. It's gonna happen. It's gonna be
Yeah,
amazing.
yeah.
Um, so I feel like I want to go back to parlor coffee and vintage cheese. But I also, okay, we're gonna check these parlor coffee, vintage cheese on hold.
Yeah.
So your favorite space in Winnipeg that you would love to turn into a queer pop-up dance place.
Oh gosh. That is a great question. There's a bunch of spaces. Right
Okay,
now I'm
name
living
three.
in
Let's go with three. We can go three. Top
okay,
three.
three. Okay, I'm gonna say one is gonna be like super ostentatious. The train station in Winnipeg, I don't know if you've been
Oh,
inside it, is like
yes.
has this giant like rotunda. Like it literally feels like
Ooh.
I like New York. Like I think the same
Yeah,
designer of like large Grand Central stations in New York and Chicago like designed this space.
right.
I'm sure the acoustics are terrible, but I feel like just dancing underneath this like giant dome and like a place that feels like very fancy and like turn of the century, just to like have that be like just put some like club lights and a smoke machine, like that would be amazing.
Oh my God.
Like drag performers performing around that.
Oh my God. It's so Gossip Girl,
Yeah,
like brought to Winnipeg. Okay,
yeah.
one.
I think there's also like this has happened before, but like there's a real culture in the winter of like using the rivers that go through Winnipeg.
Right.
And so there's been like dance parties on the river before, but I would really like that to happen again. They're usually like in like very crowded, sweaty tents with poor ventilation, so like not going to
Oh,
happen during COVID. But um,
my
so,
dream.
yeah, and also like the slight fear that we're all dancing and we're going to crack through the ice, and like the way that we're all going to die is like while listening to Madonna. It would be, I just think, what a way to go, hey?
It's like that boat in Panama and the cruise, the gay thing that sank in Panama, like not Panama,
Yeah,
sorry, Puerto Vallarta, yeah.
yeah.
But in Winnipeg, I love it. Okay,
Winnipeg. Yeah, okay. Now I think I have one more. Um, hmm. I feel like there's just like some random suburbs that could use like just like a pop-up like block
oh,
party. Like those places that I never go in Winnipeg that are like very like cookie cutter. I don't know. Like there's something about like also just like a community center where there's like people are curling next door, or like you can like um yeah, like a curling rink or something. Like where you can like smell like the sweat of like 30 generations of dads
uh,
like who are like going out curling. I know.
right. I mean, all my dad's fetishes and dreams will come true. Like
Yeah.
just the smell is enough, right?
Yeah.
Oh, I feel like somehow we need to get these ideas to Pride Winnipeg and see how we can execute. Like 5 minutes for executing it. There's like I feel like the one at the train station can be a little more elegant. People can maybe come in your
Oh yeah.
suits and your ties, like maybe a little more fashion, a little more gossip girly. And then I
Yeah.
think like we could be on the ice rink in our I don't know what people wear ice skating because I haven't done it yet.
Yeah.
And
Headbands, furs. Yeah.
oh my god, very Real Housewives of Salt Lake City.
Yeah.
And then like in our booty shorts, jock straps, and neon 80s wear at the
Yeah.
curling bar.
Oh yeah.
I, I feel like we just created the parties for Pride when we're allowed
Yeah.
to. Yeah.
Hmm.
And actually, it doesn't have to be just Pride, because I guess the winter one will have to be Winter Pride.
Yeah.
Yeah. So to all the Toronto boys out there, we've got some parties coming up. Get your costumes ready.
Yeah.
Because Andrew just made this up and I'm gonna help execute it.
Yeah. Get your curling broom and yeah. Come on
Oh,
over.
I want to wear my short shorts and my knee-high like, come on. I'm here
Yeah.
for the costuming. And the dad smell, obviously.
Yeah. I mean that's central. That's like the main attraction. Yeah.
Right, right. All right, so let's get back to parlor coffee.
Sure.
So tell us about is that one of your what are if someone has to come to Winnipeg, what is one of your favorite places outside of parlor coffee for them to go to and why?
That is a good question. I yeah, I'm not going to name a coffee shop because I could name a bunch. In Winnipeg, there is for anyone who isn't here, there's like a great coffee culture. I was recently reading about this. I can't remember what it is. Like fika, someone Finnish is gonna like punch me in the face. There is like some sort of Finnish concept that's basically like the concept of like going out twice a day for like coffee and a piece of cake, which is
Oh,
something that I'm trying to like embody with myself because there's so many places in this city. And now working from home, like I'm just searching for ways to escape. And so, yeah, like I love the coffee shops in the city because you can go and get like a pastry and a coffee and like people watch. If there is someone who's coming to Winnipeg, um, there's a great little boutique owned by some friends of mine called Black Market Provisions, which is great. They've got like uh, the best like vegan chocolate chip cookies you'll ever try, or maybe they're just gluten free. I don't know. They're delicious. And you can buy like cute stuff from like really great local businesses. And of course, I'm related to them because it's Winnipeg. There's also like another, like just to shout out another queer business here in the city. Like
yeah.
there's two guys here that run a shop called Vantage Vintage,
Yes.
which is incredible. And if you haven't followed them on Instagram, you really should because they post all these like incredible dresses. Oftentimes, the two people who own it, who you might call masculine presenting. I'm not sure what their gender identity is, but like they will put themselves in these incredible garments. And I just feel like there's like these awesome like gender queer thing going on where they're selling mostly like women's wear, but they're modeling it themselves. And also being like as you might understand, like being a very like painfully like skinny person, I sometimes find it hard to find clothes that fit me. Like
Right.
if it fits me around here, like the arms are way too short. And so like going to that store and just finding like all the super tight like 70s wear in like the worst polyester ever is just the best. So yeah, black and market provisions, Vantage Vintage. Um, yeah, and I think if you're like looking for something free to do, um, the neighborhood I live in is the West End, and it's just like a ton of like young queer families who are coming there. It feels it's quite central. There's like a stretch along Ellis Avenue where there's like a concert venue. There's like a mosque, a Hindu temple, like a meditation center. There's like a resource center for folks who are coming from the north, like Inuit folks who are coming from the north and searching for resources. There's like a quote unquote body rub parlor, like right next to the meditation center. It's just like such an interesting section of the city. Is a queer sourdough bakery, like all
Hmm.
within a few block radius, that I love. So I would like take you on my regular walk to work down Ellis Avenue.
Yeah, I feel like we're neighbors right now because you're just down the street from us. We need to go. Like, I want to do a coffee dessert run with you one day, and we need to go to two different places, two of your favorite places to try them out. So
Yeah,
that are not Parlor Coffee because it's too close, and I've been there way too often. Love Parlor, shout out to Parlor,
yeah,
just not there.
yeah,
I need to expand my horizons, and not
yeah,
Sourdough Bakery either because I need to expand my horizons. Um, Vintage Vantage, great. Those guys, you're like one, you're right. They're sample size boys as you are, and like I love when they're wearing their like Chanel-esque jackets and posing. Like I feel like the city, like we got here and the city closed in a month after we got here, and we didn't get enough
yeah,
time to go and explore these things. But you are like their model of like I feel like every time you're posting a T-shirt, I'm like, oh, vintage vantage. Like you've got like you're their poster boy for vintage T-shirts, which is one of my questions I was
yeah,
going to ask you about. Like you kill it, and now we just gave him a shout out. So
yeah,
are they gonna open? Are they doing curbside pickup? I mean, I guess they can't do curbside pickup because you want to try things
yeah.
on.
They are. I've ordered something.
Oh,
Yeah, a surprise gift for my twin sister if she watches this.
okay. Oh, cool.
Yeah,
Well,
there's something coming her way in a couple of months for her birthday.
they also have great fur coats. Like remember I did like a quick stop by, like great fur coats. They had amazing corduroy pants, also like great like men's leather jackets, t-shirts galore. But their women's fashion side was brilliant. Like there's some DRS dresses and Chanel dresses that I was just like,
Yeah.
I need to come back. I have like nowhere to wear them. I'm not even doing drag right now, but like I want to be able to wear them somewhere.
Mhm. Yeah,
So
absolutely.
yeah, great call out on both those. Um, So one exciting thing about you I just found out was you're a board member on Sunshine House. We fully had a Sunshine House conversation yesterday, and you didn't drop that nugget. So, like, I'm not surprised. You're such a queer advocate. You're like, you love local businesses. You're so Winnipeg that way. What brought you to Sunshine House and how?
I mean, I am someone who, I mean, I think for a while, like my partner is like just grossly involved in the community. Like it's a bit disgusting, like the amount of how good a person he is. And so to a certain extent, I just felt some social pressure to like volunteer. But Sunshine House is such a great part of the such a great part of the Winnipeg scene. Like you can't go to a lot of events without seeing someone from the Sunshine Bunch, which is their drag troupe
Oh my God, I
that's
love
come out of
them.
their queer drop-in nights. They're not located too far away from where I live, and I'm a big advocate of like actually engaging with the organizations that are like within your geographic community. And being someone who like works for like a quote unquote like mainstream media outlet, um, a lot of the work that I do involves like really treating people's stories with respect. And I think that I hope I'm not freezing right now because it looks like my internet connection is unstable. But I think that the Sunshine House is so great because they put their clients at the center of everything that they do, and the work that they do, like allowing people to tell their own stories, to express themselves in the way that they choose, um, regardless of what substances they choose to use, regardless of their gender identity, regardless of the where they're at when they come in. Um, they're just such a great harm reduction organization and such a great example, I think, for people. And every time I go there, I'm learning. Um, and so, yeah, I don't know. I can't remember what your question was, but I love Sunshine House.
Yeah, why wouldn't? But I think like just your passion for them is makes sense why you wouldn't be involved with them. So for the
Yeah.
viewers, it's the greatest thing is like I'm gonna interview Levi tomorrow about Sunshine House, and I'm gonna be
Perfect.
interviewing your husband Tyler tomorrow. So it's
Yeah.
funny. I want to don't share any of these answers with him because I feel like I want to ask him the same questions instead of see where he comes from because there's such a like this is so great together, but you're also so very different as people, and it's
Mhm.
the exciting part about the two of you. Like you're just cohesive. You're very cohesive as a couple and as people, but very different. Like you're you two individual people, but you have very similar ethics, values, and the way you move forward is so fascinating for me. And which I think makes what draws me to you guys. It makes you exciting.
I'm glad it seems that way. I think I
Yeah,
would agree, but I don't know. Some days it feels like we're going in the same direction, and some days it doesn't. But that's marriage for you.
but I think that yeah, I think any relationship that makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Well, the out front sounds amazing. Okay, so one thing I want to ask about is the mustache. Tell me
Yeah.
So there's something very Winnipeg about this mustache. Like I feel like I did a little Google search and to be like, what is about this mustache? And
Yeah.
like you could Google Winnipeg mustaches and that mustache comes up. So you not on all your platforms have the mustache. How did you come about it and what compelled you to
To do the mustache.
yeah.
Um, well, I mean, it was kind of like I want to say like a pandemic project. Like I've had it since the summer. I've had mustaches like earlier in the past few years, but uh, it's like a good conversation starter. Like I'll just have random people when I'm not wearing a mask, like before the pandemic, would be like, "Oh, I love your mustache," and it's like, "Oh, great, thanks." Like you can like have something to talk about. I also think that like there is like a certain like Tom of Finland kind of like
Yes.
70s dad. Like, of course, my own father had a mustache growing up. So, like, read into that whatever you will, some weird psychology thing about how I want to wear a mustache now. Yeah, I think it's also like it's just like a small like queer signal sometimes to
Right.
folks. I know it's like trendy. I think the moment that I shave my mustache off, like my husband, I think also wants one, probably for the same reason. But we can't both have it at the same time
Sure.
because then we would look exactly the same. So yeah, I mean, I chose to do it, I think partially just to like flag my queerness, partially because I like the way I look. Um, this summer, I don't think I've ever like felt myself like not literally, but like I've never like felt as confident in my own like skin, I think, as I did this summer. I'm not sure why. This was when cases were a lot like lower in Winnipeg. And I'd spent so much time at home by myself working that like the hit of the warm weather, I think, after like the first lockdown and like growing a mustache and like going out and being able to actually see people in person and like getting external validation from people after like months of not getting it before, and then also having a mustache for people to compliment was just like intoxicating. And so it's gonna stay for a while. I think I'm gonna try to like get it to next summer.
I think you kill your rocket. I think like it also takes you away from like this baby face into like I love this Tom of Finland thing. Like it's like I'm like, oh, there's like again, it's this like what did I say? The mischievous undertone. Like this
Yeah,
baby face is hidden, like your mustache is where the mischievous undertone comes in.
I look 11 when I don't have the mustache.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Maybe, yeah. Oh,
maybe 15. Yeah.
yeah. All right. So that was the timer. Uh so we're gonna wrap it up. And what I do at this point is I throw one word at you and you respond back, letting me know what that your word in response. Ready?
Okay. Yeah.
All right. Winnipeg,
Grit.
2021.
Oh, tired.
Queer.
I mean, I kind of want to say mustache.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Tom of Finland. She gets a C
Uh,
word, but
yeah, I mean, like bulge.
ooh. Richie. We didn't even talk about Richie. It was on my
Oh my
list, but
gosh, my adorable
okay.
dog.
Yeah.
You know, he's like my best friend. I just love him. Love. Yeah.
Oh, I love that. I want to say, one of the things I think is amazing about Andrew is that, like, when you first meet him, he's got this very statuesque, like, exterior that doesn't seem warm or welcoming. But then, like, the moment, and maybe this is my like, I'm such a
No,
Toronto
that's
boy that
totally
way.
true.
It's
Yeah.
completely like my, right? You're like, okay. And I'm like, oh, but the moment, like that's just exterior. The moment you speak or talk, there's this warm, unconditional welcoming factor that people just lean into. I've seen it happen. I'm drawn to it, and I love that. That is like that's a great quality of what people in Winnipeg are like. I mean, I love that you have that, and you're honestly you like to share it. Like you're like whatever this looks like. Here's my realness, and every interaction we've had so far exemplifies that. So thank you for being that person.
I mean, thanks for saying that. I think, yeah, I mean, part of it comes from my job. My job is to like listen to stories every day. And so I wouldn't be doing that if I didn't like really care about it. So yeah, I've got a lot of training, I think, like
Oh.
listening to people and really paying attention. Sometimes I'm not very good at it, but yeah, that's a great compliment. So thank you.
Oh no, thank you for being because I feel like in Toronto, when you meet those kind of people, you're like, oh, like your guard's up, my guard's up. And then I never drop my guard then. But then you dropped it so easily. And I was like, wait, I totally misjudged the situation. And I love it. It
You're
allowed me
not an
to,
asshole after all. Yeah.
well, it allowed me to step into a little bit more vulnerability or warmth. So thank you for that. I want to thank everybody out there for taking time out of their busy schedule to tune in as we chatted with this fabulous, mischievous, undertoned Winnipegger. We'll see you bitches next week. Bye.
Bye, bitches.